Hey everybody, today we are talking about what I would say is the best Sony lens you can get, especially if you're on a budget. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to another video. Thanks so much for clicking. Like I said, today we're talking about Sony lenses, and the lens we were talking about is the Tamron 28-75. This is gonna be a pretty simple video. I'm just gonna go over the pros and cons, talk about what I love about it, and what I don't love so much about it. Spoiler alert, I love this lens. But real quick, I wanna talk about what I mean by budget. For this video, budget is a relative term. I'm not saying the lens is cheap, but if you take all the pros that I'm gonna talk about and combine it with that price, in my opinion, it really destroys every other Sony lens that I've seen. So real quick, I'm just gonna drop the price. This lens costs $879. I bought this lens at that price because I didn't wanna buy multiple prime lenses to cover that 28-75, really 24-70 range, because then I would either be spending a lot more money on prime lenses or I would be buying the cheaper prime lenses, like not the G lenses, and I would spend basically the same amount of money for nowhere near the quality. Because I have the Sony 50mm 1.8 and I hate it. It's trash. Like, I can't use it. It just sits in my bag because it hunts, autofocus, whatever. That's not what we're talking about. But yeah, when you compare that $879 to the Sigma 24-70, which is $1,099, and the Sony 24-70, which is like $2,100, I'm gonna go with the Tamron. Yeah, $879 sounds like my kind of number. All right, so let's move on to the first big pro that makes this worth that money, that makes this such a good lens for the price, and that is the range and the versatility. Like I said, you cover that general 24-70, in this case 28-75 range with one lens, and it's all at 2.8. For me, I found that's a pretty perfect range to get, especially if I'm running and gunning, if I don't have time to switch lenses. I can start at 28 for all my wide establishing shots, and I can push all the way to 70, but combined with the right camera body. This is not just a 28-75. What I love to do with this thing is use the APS-C crop function on the A7 III. I'm pretty sure all the other A7 full frame bodies have it, which basically turns this 28-75 lens into a 44 to 120mm lens, all at 2.8. Stick with me here. One could say that this is a 28 to 120mm lens, 2.8, all for $879. And I mean, they should hire me to sell this thing, because like, what? Are you kidding me? I feel like I could just say that and end the video. It'd be like a 30-second video, but 30-second videos aren't helping me grow on YouTube. Am I right? Oh gosh. If you're not sure exactly what I mean by the APS-C mode, check out this video up here. So the next thing I want to talk about is the weight of this lens. And if you've ever held the Sony 24-70 G Master, she's thick. That's a heavy lens. I feel like I'm doing freaking arm day. I don't really work out that much though, so that's probably why. Two reasons that's a big deal to me. Number one is if I'm doing a long shoot, if I'm shooting a wedding, if I'm just shooting all day. I did a shoot last week where I was outside, 95 degrees, all day. And if I can take a lighter setup, even by that little bit, I'm definitely going for it. And honestly, the best thing about the weight is it's extremely easy to balance on a gimbal. Even if I'm all the way out at 70 with it extended, it's so light that the weight distribution doesn't even make that much of a difference. Like, I'll just move it a tiny bit. Pretty much overall, it's just more convenient for me. We got two honorable mentions for the pros. Number one is the autofocus is really good. I've never had any issues with it. I know that third-party lenses can have autofocus issues sometimes, and in fact, I know that the previous version of this lens had a really bad autofocus for video, but since they updated it, phenomenal. I love it. Besides that, it has a pretty good build quality. I will admit it does not feel as nice and hefty as the Sony G Master lens, but it's not too plasticky. It's got, I mean, it might be plastic. I don't know the composition of the lens. It feels nice. But for real, when I got this lens, one of the things I had noticed, really random, doesn't really matter that much to me, the focus wheel is very smooth, like butter smooth. All right, now it's time to trash this lens. Let's talk about all the bad things I wrote down about this lens. This lens doesn't even have stabilization. But for real, that would be super cool if it had stabilization to combine with the in-body stabilization of the Sony cameras. But as far as I know, not a lot of lenses at this range, and especially at this price point, have stabilization. So I mean, what are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do? One thing, I was watching Peter Lindgren's video. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's awesome. And he said about this lens that because it does extend like that, you can get dust down there. And I actually did notice the other day there's a little bit of dust in the front element of the lens. Just thought I should let you know. It's never affected my image quality that I know of. I'm like, surely there's a way to clean that. But if I could change one thing about this lens, I would say I wish it started at 24 millimeters instead of 28. 28 is a little bit tight, especially if you're trying to do a vlog type shot, but it's definitely not impossible to film yourself, especially if you have a GorillaPod. So this is at 28 millimeters, just my arm. I guess you can see the distance. I've used it before like this. It's not awful, especially again, if you have the GorillaPod to get a little bit more reach. But in all honesty, it's not very often that I've been using this lens and been like, oh, I really need it to be 24 millimeter instead of 28. Could be cool, but it doesn't matter that much to me. But yeah, I appreciate you so much for checking out this video. That's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this, if you learned something, please hit like down below. That really helps my channel grow and other people see these videos. So that means a lot to me. If you do have this lens, let me know what you think about it. And let me know in the comments what your favorite Sony lens is. My friend Denard swears that the 24 millimeter 1.4 is the best lens that Sony makes or that you can put on a Sony camera. What's your favorite? Because I don't need to buy anything else, but just let me know, I might try it out. If you do want to see more videos, be sure to hit subscribe down below, click the little bell so that you get a notification right when I upload. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. This is so embarrassing. 2 videos in a row, my light hasn't died. I need it to die. Okay, ready? Be sure to check out last week's video about shooting B-roll of yourself. Kinda like it without the light. It looks natural. I feel like there's not enough separation though.